This is the 488 GTB, Ferrari's replacement to the 458, and by now you almost certainly know what the biggest difference between the two cars is, but just in case it slipped underneath your radar, this car uses a mid-mounted turbocharged V8. Now, this isn't Ferrari's first time putting a turbo into a street-legal car, far from it. In the late 80s and the early 90s, there was the F40, and more recently than that, Ferrari showed us the California T at this very show only a year ago before its arrival for the 2015 model year. And in fact, you may already know that Ferrari plans to turbocharge all of its future V8 models, so this is probably something you need to start getting used to. Besides, it really shouldn't be difficult considering its 3.9-liter turbo powerhouse makes 660 horsepower and 560 pound-feet of torque that it sends to the rear wheels through a 7-speed dual-clutch gearbox. Oh, and just in case you're worrying, the engine is still a typical Ferrari screamer with a red line at 8,000 RPM. And speaking of metrics, the company says that this car has a dry weight of roughly 3,000 pounds, which makes it slightly heavier than the 458 Speciale, but also slightly lighter than the 458 Italia. But more importantly, it can rocket to 124 miles an hour in 8.3 seconds. Now, if that speed seems arbitrary, it's because it also equals 200 kilometers an hour. But there's so much more to talk about. This car comes with Ferrari's latest side slip angle control software that is designed to let you drive at the limit without going dangerously beyond it. Much as the SSC software certainly helps this thing to make a faster track lap than its predecessor, it probably doesn't hurt that it also generates up to 325 kilograms of downforce. For reference, Ferrari says that's 50% more than its predecessor. And if somehow that still isn't enough, although between you and me it probably should be, just take a look at this thing. I mean, if you thought that the 458 was beautiful, take it from me, the 488 GTB will leave you positively gobsmacked in person. Get a load of Audi's brand new Halo car. This is the second generation R8, and it's on display here in Geneva this week before going on sale in Europe later this summer. And when that happens, it's going to cost somewhere between the equivalent of $184,000 and $209,000. Now, the R8 has never been an unattractive car, quite the opposite. In fact, if anything, the V8 model from the previous generation looks meaner than it actually is. This go-around, Audi isn't toning things down at all, but it also doesn't look like they're really being cranked up either because, frankly, the new R8 barely looks like anything different than the old one. Whether that's a good thing or not is up for you to debate in the comments box just a few inches down your screen, but one thing is certainly not up for debate. Power. That's right, when the second generation R8 shows up, it's going to have 10 pots of banging or none at all because it comes with two V10 powertrains, the lesser of which offers 540 horsepower, while the greater of which, the Plus model, puts out 610. And if that seems a little bit Lambo-like, well, it shouldn't come as any surprise. In fact, it's almost like they're related. I don't know who just played that, but gross. Anyway, other noteworthy mechanical bits include a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission and an all-wheel drive system that's new and can send up to 100% of the power fore or aft as demand dictates. Variable steering and an adaptive suspension are both also available as options, along with 20-inch wheels for the first time on the R8, although 19-inch rims come as standard. By default, the car comes with steel brakes, but the V10 Plus model is also available with fade-free carbon ceramics. Now, to be clear, this is an all-new car, although the exterior does frankly look more like a mid-cycle refresh than a brand new model. But if you really need things that are new and stylish, take a look at the interior. You have a brand new steering wheel, a 12.3-inch digital gauge cluster, a new gear selector, and quite a bit more. Now, if you're really excited for this car, I have some bittersweet news. The Europeans are going to have a chance to buy it this summer, but we aren't going to get it until the 2017 model year. Nashville, eat your heart out, because this is how Germany does jacked up trucks. This is the Mercedes-Benz G500 4x4 squared. The latest interpretation of the G-Wagon is based on the already ostentatious long wheelbase model, but in this case, Mercedes-Benz went positively hog wild. For example, it has an absolutely insane 17.7 inches of ground clearance, which is bonkers when you realize that that is more than double what a normal G-Wagon offers. Under the hood, you'll find Mercedes twin-turbo 4-liter V8 making 422 horsepower and 450 pound-feet of torque. Those are big numbers, but try this on for size. If this thing were a production model, Mercedes says it would be available with 22-inch alloy wheels or optionally 18-inch wheels with 37-inch beadlock tires. And if that still isn't enough, the approach and departure angles are 52 and 54 degrees respectively, not to mention a 47-degree breakover angle. In other words, this Benz doesn't just drive over some things, it drives over all the things. Now, like I said a second ago, this is just a concept for now, but it looks about as production ready as they come. And in fact, the model on the floor is actually fully drivable. Appropriately, Mercedes-Benz chose Geneva to showcase this particularly wild concept, probably because many of the showgoers who are particularly well-heeled are here shopping for their next Ferrari, Lamborghini, or possibly Mercedes-Benz. And that leaves only one question left. What do you think of it?
The Civic Type R will be the most hardcore Type R Honda has ever produced, and we are finally getting a first look at the production car. Using a 2-liter turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, power is rated at 305 horsepower and 295 pound-feet of torque. Paired to a 6-speed manual transmission, the Type R sends its power to the front wheels and is said to cover the 0 to 62 mile/hour sprint in 5.7 seconds on the way to a top speed of 167 miles per hour. Not impressed by these numbers? How about this? The Civic Type R laps the Nürburgring in just 7 minutes and 50.6 seconds. For little perspective, that's not only the front-wheel drive record, but it's also faster than the NSX-R and the 2009 Cadillac CTS-V. To keep this hot hatch stable at high speeds, the underbody of the car is almost completely flat. A wide front splitter, deep side skirts, and large rear wing should keep the Civic glued to the road in high-speed cornering. A new adaptive damper system has been developed specifically for the Type R Civic, as well as dual-axis strut front suspension system that Honda claims reduces torque steer by 50% compared to regular Civics. Rear roll rigidity is also greatly improved, now less prone to body roll by 180%. Rounding out the performance upgrades are Brembo brakes and sticky 235mm tires at all 4 corners. The Civic Type R is the first Honda to use the new +R button that increases engine response, reduces power steering assistance, and ups the adaptive damper stiffness by 30%. And of course, being a true Type R model, traditional touches like a championship white paint option and an aluminum shift knob are included. Rejoice America, the 3rd generation Ford Focus RS is finally going to be available to us. Ford officially revealed the car back in February, but we are getting our first look at the car now here in Geneva. Billed as the most powerful production Focus ever, power comes from a 2.3-liter EcoBoost 4-cylinder engine making well in excess of 315 horsepower. A 6-speed manual will be the only transmission available, matched up to all-wheel drive. Using 2 electronically controlled clutch packs at the rear of the vehicle, torque can be split side to side for true torque vectoring. Up to 70% of total engine power can be diverted to the rear axle, while 100% can be sent to either rear wheel, allowing for massive drifts. That is enabled further thanks to a drift mode. Beside rear torque vectoring, the RS all-wheel drive system can shift power front and rear, while the front wheels can brake individually to further help rotate the car. The RS chassis also includes stiffer spring rates, stiffer bushings, larger anti-roll bars, and 2-mode switchable dampers. A choice of Michelin tires can be fitted to the Focus RS, including the optional Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires. Inside are heavily bolstered partial leather Recaro seats, a new flat-bottom steering wheel, and an additional bank of gauges. The new Ford Focus RS will be the 30th car to wear the legendary RS badge, and it sounds like it will not disappoint its predecessor.